Fragments of silicon, not recommended by any government agency as a self-defense mechanism.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me as always, our Galaxy and Petty fan. And let's get to the news. Petty, you start us off because, well, I think you have things to talk about.
Well, we got our air conditioner. Turns
Also,
out...
make sure to unmute yourself first.
So, we got our air conditioner. Turns out the one that we've had has been in there so long, it's kind of settled. So we're having trouble... What?
Define settled.
Like, it doesn't want to be extricated.
Huh.
The frame of the window has morphed around it.
Kinda, sorta.
Melded, I think.
So yeah, we're trying to figure out how the hell to get that out without breaking the window, because that would be expensive.
Yes.
And also we're trying to figure out how we can be able to lift the air conditioner up into the window, because it's 150 pounds.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So yeah, we need to figure out what we want to do with it by the 7th, because that's the deadline to return it.
Mm-hmm.
So...
It's a bit of time there.
Yeah, hopefully it can come out with a little bit of ginger application of force.
Like...
And it's funny because I'm a ginger. Ha-ha!
Well, here's a question. Is this AC unit located on the first floor or the second floor?
Our house is kind of weird. We're built into the side of the hill, so our main floor is... Parts of it is high enough to be considered the second floor. Part of it is considered low enough to be ground level. And it's the higher part.
So if that AC was pushed out the window, it would cause some damage.
Yeah, but luckily we're not going to be trying that using that AC ever again, because it looks like it has like black mold or something growing in it.
Yeah, I mean, still, that's a falling AC, air conditioning unit.
Yeah.
Which,
luckily, it's in a place where we won't get any foot traffic, because it's in like... I don't know what you would call it. Basically, no foot traffic goes in there. It's still part of our yard.
And there's nothing that would be in that spot that would, get damaged.
Yeah.
Keep in mind also they can, like, bounce.
Yeah.
It's better to avoid that is the main thing I'm saying.
Yeah, the ideal thing is if we can get just to slide out and then find a way to get it outside and put it to the curb and have somebody else deal with it.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah. I mean, we are open to just yeeting it out the window if we have to. Obviously, that's not ideal, because, there's going to be sharp bits of metal there for a long-ass time, and sharp metal and lawnmowers don't go well together.
Also, just if the coolant gets out, that's usually bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably an environmental hazard.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not our top idea, but it is an option if we must go to it.
Right.
And in other news, I got I had fun at the Digimon BT8 pre-release. I managed to pull a Imperial Dramon Paladin mode alternate art. So hooray for $70 cards. Unfortunately, I did pull a Digimon alternate art, but I did the dumbest thing ever and accidentally left it outside in the rain. So it is now ruined.
Why would you leave a card outside?
It fell out of the box and I didn't see it.
Ah.
Yeah, until like the next day after we had a big rainstorm, and I'm like, no!
What is that pile of mush in the grass?
Well,
yonder?
luckily it's holographic, so it stayed together.
I mean, that's sounds like it's little consolation at this point.
Yeah, it's more now a reminder: don't be an idiot.
A reminder of your failures.
Yes, I'd rather it be that than the Paladin mode, which is $70.
Yep.
So yeah, that's fun. And yeah, next week I should have my X antibody deck ready. So hooray for competitive decks finally! And I think that's it for me.
All right, Golix, you're up.
I'm tired today. My grandmother is living with us now. She moved in on Sunday, so...
Right, you've been mentioning this for quite a while now.
Yeah, so we're adjusting to that. The biggest thing for me is that family's eating earlier because old people go to bed early, so I'm not being home in time for dinner most nights, but...
I mean, you gotta work, you gotta work.
Mm-hmm. And my sleep hasn't been that great either, but we'll see what's up with that. I'm probably going to try and put my air conditioner in this weekend or something, since it's Memorial Day coming up.
You people with your portable AC units, like...
Well, we live in states where you don't need them year-round, so...
I know.
Well, I wouldn't
and it's
call...
not like I had a choice.
I wouldn't call 150 pounds portable.
I mean, they're not built into the building.
Yeah. Like, more portable than what I got.
Fair.
Which is built in and has ducts. So...
You and your fancy ducting.
Anyway, I'm hoping that the local game store will get the new... They did have a Digimon pre-release yesterday, apparently, but I couldn't make it, so... Hopefully they'll have the actual stuff in sooner than later. Although I do still want to make a Diablomon deck. I can't... I looked on TCG Player for some of the cards that I don't have that go with it, and, like... It's a headache to try to figure out who's the best to get stuff from. And a couple of the cards are still pretty expensive. So.
Oh yeah, the promo Diaboromon, you might as well just sell your left kidney for that one.
Apparently it's gone down quite a bit since they released it as like a judge promo at something too, so...
Yeah, it's still...
Yes, it's still $30+, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably only want like 2 of that, but... Even with that, and you can do a Diablomon deck without that.
Yeah, they specifically have alternate lists without that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that one is a really good killing blow thing. It doesn't put any more Diablomon tokens in play by itself. But the more Diablomons you have, the more security checks it does, which can help you catch up from behind. Because that's my biggest issue when I'm playing against my friend who has... I would usually mostly starter decks, and he has like a modded plant Digiburst deck or something. Mm-hmm. Is just whoever... It's hard to not just have the other person take all your security things. Mm-hmm. Anyway, See, video game wise, I played a bit more of Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and that is still fun and good. Haven't really played much Super Robot Wars near the end of the game, but I'm trying to avoid my traditional gets near the end of the game and then doesn't finish it itis. So I might start playing that during show or something. We'll see. And yeah, not a whole lot else that I can think of aside from I did play some of the game we're going to talk about today, and it's weird. So
Yes, it is.
that's all I got.
All right, I guess it's my go. Let's see. I suppose the biggest news for me this week is dealt with a bit of a not. How do I put this? Not a rash, but more a skin rash that was around the eye. Mild one, but that required some cream and, a lot of stinging eyes this week. Because, you gotta rub that shit in, and sometimes it gets in your eye, and not fun times. Though, thankfully, it's cleared up just enough where I can stop using the foreign substance. So now I just have to worry about the eye strain.
Fine.
Well, that's just more a consequence of staring at a computer screen for a long period of time, as I am wanting to do.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like we do a show that involves that.
Yeah, and, I have to do a lot of stuff involving that in various capacities. Like, it's especially fun when it combines with the astigmatism I have. So everything gets blurry and out of focus. Hard to read when it's under a certain font point.
Yep.
Anyway, but occupational hazards they may be. Let's see. In other news, let's see. I guess in gaming news, been playing a lot of Genesis stuff recently. Consequence of looking for this week's topic. Wanted to talk about a Sonic game, but wasn't sure which Sonic game. So, and I wanted to play both of them to make sure if they were as horrible as I remember them, and yes, they are. I mean, I know the Sega Genesis Classics pack isn't the best emulation, but it's like, I also remember, Sonic 3D Blast and Sonic Spinball are both jank. Ugh. Let's see. It looks like Mac has actually booked a guest for June.
Oh, man.
Which is good, because it's been a while since he's actually booked a guest. So, and let's see. Speaking of bookings, bit of a schedule adjustment going there on this show for next week. Guest had to drop out due to being busy. That happens. Trying to get a replacement. We'll see what happens there. If not, Heaven's Vault. Been a while. It's been long enough where I'm like, where even are we in that game?
Indeed.
And so not a lot going on this week. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us is our semi-frequent regular guest, John from MangaGamer.
Good to be back again.
Always good to have you. Right, let's see. So there's quite a few titles to talk about this time around. Let's see. I guess we can, as we usually do, we begin at the previous end. That is to say, Ultra C. I recall we specifically talked about this one last time because of the name.
Yeah.
So, but as usual, that was in a future tense, and now this is in a past present tense because the game is out.
Yep. On our website and Steam.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so I suppose first off is for those who might have not tuned in for the previous interview, what is Ultra C?
It is a superhero kaiju action drama set in the golden age of cinema within Japan, and it is also ultimately a boys' love title.
Mm-hmm. And
The story is fairly linear, as each chapter deals with one of three main different couples or pairings throughout the game that cover various issues in this world of sort of superheroes versus kaiju, where
yeah,
the kaiju is kind of, it's actually like an infectious thing. People can be turned into kaiju. And so you
I'm
have,
remembering this.
yes, you have part of it is you have the whole drama of, the people who were turned into kaiju trying to sort of find or reestablish their place in society as, human beings, even though they're now these, can turn into these city destroying monsters. And, on the other hand, you have the superheroes that fight them and, you know, for, quote unquote justice. And it draws a lot on the tropes of tokusatsu and superhero action. So the visual
And
style is very unique. Those that have played A Delta's previous game, Hashihime of Old Booktown, will be a little more familiar with that.
there's another question here is you list a thing called a Soshigaya. What exactly is that?
Uh, Sushi Gaia?
Soshigaya? Like 18 plus BL visual novel set in 1970 Soshigaya. Oh, sorry. I thought that was a term, not a place.
Oh yeah, that's the town. That's the town
Yeah.
it's set in.
Just yeah. Anyway, so in terms of explicitness, how how much do you see in
The dudes
terms
get
of
it on. Yeah, you see the dudes getting it on.
good to know, good to know. Like so,
Like
and
most BL games, it's a bit more focused on the story side of uh things, but you definitely see the men copulate.
and did you have to edit anything to get it on Steam?
No, it's just in the adult section of Steam. So if you don't have your settings adjusted already, you'll have to do that.
Hmm. And so I was getting a bit deeper. Like, who are the characters that you will be interacting and inhabiting in one case?
So the first couple, there's Shotaro Kagome. Um, he is one of those who has been turned into a kaiju when he is, soaked in one of the blood of one of the kaiju that's fought by the superheroes. And his partner is Akira Kozuka, who is works as a manga artist, and so he's sort of there to offer. He's there very much as sort of Shotaro's support, as Shotaro is dealing with the trauma and the tragedy of being turned into one of these monsters, and so it's through the chapter with this couple that you sort of get to your first look at that whole side of the drama of the people that still want to be recognized as people, even though they now have this ability to turn into monsters. One of the other couples you follow is Shiro Chotsugai and Suzu Ishiki. Um, there is. I don't want to go too much into information with them because their relationship is very complicated, and it does a lot of exploring the gray areas between sort of both worlds in this game society, the world and society of the humans turned kaiju, and the world and society of the humans that act as superheroes. So there's a lot of sort of mystery and depth there that is a bit spoiler. um and then last you have Juro Sayashi and Yomi Hibarino. And uh, the Juro is one of the uh, main like superhero team, the Icarus Rangers. And so with their story, you get to look more into the superhero side of the world.
And you mentioned the previous visual novel by the developer, the Hashihime of Old Booktown. Are there any connections between the two games here?
No, no, just developer and art style, kind of. Yeah.
Fair enough. Like, and I suppose we should move forward with some new titles at this point. Specifically, the game we have on Showcase this time around, which is maybe at once familiar and alien for those who have played the house in Fata Morgana, because it's from the same development team. Like,
Yep.
though this is a very different context.
Yeah, Seventh Layer is a game that Novak, they developed it basically as an April Fool's game. And so that's why it does a lot of it. Quite honestly, it reuses a lot of the assets from the house in Fata Morgana to tell its story, which is at heart a comedic parody of the trials and tribulations of indie game dev.
Though apparently it still gets into some of the stuff that you will know them for if you read if you watched the House or played the House in Fata Morgana games.
Yeah.
I'm like, people have motifs and themes and habits,
But yes, at the beginning when they're figuring out what's going on, it's kind of jarring to see these very gothic character designs in the context of a badly programmed Dragon Quest ripoff.
Yes.
I mean, it's a weird game. But that as you now, when you say an April Fool's game, was this literally released on April Fool's, or is it just more?
It was.
It was released on April Fool's, both in Japan and here in the U.S.
The official date is March 31st, but
yes, I know that's a question for the audience. Anyway, and there's a lot of there's more elaboration here than I was expecting. In that there's actually how do I put this? Parody websites.
Yes, they for one of the things they did for this was they created a whole fake website that looked like it's straight out of the early 90s.
Yes.
So it's set
like,
in
to represent-
2013.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because it's to represent that, like, the kind of, like, bare bones, like, websites and forums that a lot of indie devs will create.
It has frames. I haven't seen a website with frames in literal decades. Like, I'm like, oh, that is just one thing I think. Like 1999 to 2001 frames. Like, I don't miss them for a second.
I think up until maybe, like, 2 or 3 years ago, 7th Expansion's website actually still used frames.
That wouldn't be surprising. Like, you know, just because something's no longer in vogue doesn't mean it's stopped being used entirely. Like, unless it like literally had the plug pulled on it, like say GeoCities.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure if Yahoo was still hosting GeoCities, there'd still be GeoCities pages.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh. And so, aside from the aesthetics of this website, what is on this?
Hmm?
But like, there's all these posts. Like, is it a reflection of like the because if I'm remembering correctly, like, it's a reflection of the developer thought process of developing the game, but like before he gets sucked into the game.
Yeah, so all the character, like, all the posts on the, quote unquote fake website, like, they're meant to be the actual, like, internet interactions between the developer and his, quote unquote fans before they're all sucked into the game in Seventh Layer. So, like, all the internet troll rants that you see, that's what they said to each other before they were all drawn into, and forced to interact face to face in the game.
That's a level of dedication, if nothing else. Like, now, when you were translating this game, were you under any sort of time pressure to have it out by April 1st or March 31st? You know.
At first, we weren't. It just happened to kind of really. It happened to when we finished it happened to coincide pretty close with it
Mm-hmm.
to the April Fool's timeline. So we were actually just really kind of happy to make that happen. There were a couple things that we had to kind of push for when we realized we were, going to be close to actually making that deadline. But no, for the most part, we weren't in any kind of hurry or rush to meet it until, like, oh, we can actually make this deadline. Let's do it.
You didn't push yourselves too hard. Like,
No.
and what was the reaction to this game? Especially from those who are big fans of the house in Fata Morgana.
Oh, yeah. All the Fata Morgana fans have loved it so far.
That's actually good to hear because, yeah, this is one of those things that could have gone either way. Like, they were either going to really love it or they were going to really hate it.
Well, because it does a really good job of, like, well, it's also a parody of indie game dev. The the characters that the, like, reused assets are supposed to be playing are also parodies of the characters in Fata Morgana. So there's
Right.
so you see a lot of those same personality traits and behaviors sort of reflected into this new context. And so that's why for a lot of fans, it's kind of an interesting, haha joke, nod nod, is you can kind of see, how these, characters who lived in like 1620 are now would behave in like 2010.
That is amusing, if nothing else. Like,
I'm not sure if people would normally be expecting Michel to be quite such a loser, but
I mean, he was a shut-in.
I'm like, and and yeah, context is key because while not indie games, stuff like say Majora's Mask or a lot of standalone expansion things that reuse a lot of assets, but still forge their own paths, because they have either good writing or personality, or they're doing something different,
Yeah.
even though it might look a lot similar to this other game.
Mm-hmm.
And like, how long would you say that the seventh layer is?
It's definitely much shorter than Fata Morgana. I think you can probably complete the game within a weekend. There's a reason it's one of our lower price games.
Hmm. Yeah, I do remember the house in Fata Morgana being quite long. Right.
Yeah.
Are there any choices to make in this one?
Yeah, there are.
not a lot.
Well, yeah.
No,
I mean,
not
there
a
were actually. I mean, there weren't a lot of choices to make in the house in Fata Morgana either.
Yeah.
It's less about how many choices and how important they are, especially with this developer.
True. They definitely they give you some interesting interactions with between the characters. So they're definitely worth exploring.
Yeah, like, I played like an hour and a half of it, and I was a bit confused at points, like, because not gonna lie, this game shifts its tone quite wildly, because as you noted, it is a parody game that's also still exploring some deep things.
Yeah.
So, it'll be a bit jarring. I'm just gonna put that out there right now. So,
Yeah, because I mean, well, yeah, because it takes like I said, it does take these parodies of these characters from the very serious kind of tragic. And I don't necessarily want to say depressing because there's all the whole redemption in Fata Morgana, but it is very
melancholy. I think.
melancholy. You have a lot of the parodies of these very melancholic characters, and
Yeah.
they're thrown into this like completely buggy game together.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix that can go wrong. I've seen that happen. Like, when you try to smash tones together. Right.
But I think it works.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
this one.
Like, once again, it's definitely a thing that takes talent to make work. Like,
And this developer definitely has that talent.
right. I suppose we should move on here to. I'm probably going to mispronounce this, so bear with me. Uchikano, Living with My Sister.
Yeah, you pretty much got it.
Okay. What does Uchikano mean?
So it's actually it's shorthand for Uchi no Kanojo, which basically is like Uchi is home and Kanojo would be girlfriend. Because this is the second in the series. The first one, Uchikano, was Living with My Girlfriend that we released last August. And so the two games, Living with My Sister, Living with My Girlfriend, are they're set in the same town, the same main character. The difference is the main heroine. In the Living with My Girlfriend, the story starts off when your childhood friend, girlfriend comes to live with you, and that story plays out the way it plays out. And in Living with My Sister, instead, your parents get sick with not coronavirus, and so the sister has to come live with you. And so the story plays out differently with your sister being the main heroine.
So when we say sister here, are we talking adopted or by blood?
I believe it is. Um, I want to say it's blood related. Yeah, I believe it is.
Like, and I'm guessing she's the main
She's
romantic
the only
interest?
heroine of Living with My Sister. Yeah.
No, of course. Like, right, moving on. Like,
It's a very sweet game, much like the first. Very sweet, very romantic, as long as you're okay with incest.
yes, I'm sure. We have another Higurashi installment to talk about. Like, Higurashi when they cry, how Ray. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so what is this? Because trying to make sense of mainline Higurashi, but like Higurashi side stories is headache inducing if you look too hard deep into it.
So the Ray is a collection of 3 main chapters. The first is the Saikoroshi chapter, and this one is more of an epilogue to the main Higurashi series. In Saikoroshi, Rika is basically transported to a world where none of the things leading to the tragedy in Higurashi happened. There's no Takano plot. Well, I don't want to spoil, but there's none of the tragedy and the things that set it off happen in this world. It's the idea of you have spent this entire series, sort of searching for the perfect ending where everyone lives out their happy lives after the summer of 1983. And in this chapter, Rika is sent to a world where there was no tragedy. So there's a lot of the relations that she had are just not there, and it really think about makes you as a player think about the whole question of would it really have been better off for these people if none of the events of Higurashi had ever occurred. And a lot of the fans of the Higurashi series have also, you know, tossed around and debated their theories that um, Frederica or Erica, I forget the name, um, who shows up later in Uineko, is actually from the Rika of this chapter's world and ending. The second main chapter of the Higurashi Rei is the Hirokawashi chapter. And so fans of Higurashi probably are already somewhat familiar with Higurashi Daybreak, which was a Dojin game that I think might have gotten a console adaptation at one point. But it was basically a game where you went running around as the Higurashi characters. It's sort of a like open field battle royale sort of game. It was a lot of fun to play, and the Hirokawashi chapter is sort of it's a story that Ryukishi wrote for that game after the fact, uh, to go along with the idea of the setting behind how all the crazy hijinks in Higurashi Daybreak occurred. So that chapter is very much sort of like you said, an AU chapter. It's not necessarily like part of the main storyline, but it's a lot of fun, and it's full of comedy and hijinks, and the characters getting up to just crazy fun as they're dealing with these magatama that cause whoever holds them to fall in love with the person holding the pair. So it causes all kinds of crazy hijinks between the characters falling in love with people that they would never fall in love with. And, and so then you have the third chapter of Higurashi Ray, which the Ryukishi has described it as um, what was supposed to be sort of the comedic after party script for chapter 6 or chapter 5, the Miyakashi chapter. For those not familiar with Higurashi, once you would complete the chapter, there's always sort of a after party at the end of the chapter where they characters sort of talk in a very meta sense about what happened in the chapter. But when he was writing Batsu Koishi, uh, it went on so many wild tangents, and it this is where you get all the kinds of jokes about like Irie and his hyper maid obsession. It Batsu Koishi is basically the guys in the series like going full on crazy bro with each other, and it's absolutely hilarious. It's absolutely degenerate, and they basically it wasn't originally included. Basically, after he wrote it, he scrapped it as the after party for Miyakashi because he thought it would just completely destroy the emotional impact of the ending in that chapter because it's just so wild.
And like, I don't know, I have a hard time believing that this is like the final chapter because I heard that a lot with Higurashi. Like,
So the last part of Higurashi that we at MangaGamer will be releasing are the Ho chapters, which were the 3 chapters added later on for the renewal of Higurashi when he made Higurashi Ho.
right,
Um, the 3 chapters in that one is a visual novel adaptation of the it's called the Hinamizawa Bus Stop, which is um was the sort of original prototype for Higurashi, and it's written as an actual screenplay. So it was written like with Hinamizawa Bus Stop. You can actually take that and like put on a play at your local theater. Um, and then the other 2 chapters, the one rolls for the other 2 Ho chapters. The one rolls right into the other, and it deals more with the goddess side of Higurashi, Hanyu, and her people. And I won't go into too much detail on that today, because that'll be better for when we get around to releasing that.
okay. Uh, a tale for another time.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I believe that is all the games you wanted to cover this time around. So I will ask if there's anything upcoming you want to mention that we didn't previously.
Uh, yes. So, just last week we had Anime Central. So we did announce 2 of our newest acquisitions. One of which is the BL title called The Patient S Remedy. That is by the same creators of Naked Butlers. That will be eventually released on our website and on Steam. You can actually find the Japanese version of it on Steam already. And we also announced the second healthy hentai game, which is trying to remember the long title.
Like, I mean,
How healthy hentai administers public service, I believe. And in this one, in this version, you follow the sex cops in the healthy hentai world, the police officers that go around town providing sexual relief for those in need of it.
huh. There's a lot to unpack there, but once again, we'll do that at a later date. And speaking of which, I suppose we can have you back on the program, say, July 27th?
That is the day before I have to leave for Otakon.
What about the next week after that, August 3rd?
That will work.
Okay. So we'll have you back then. And John, as always, it was a pleasure having you.
Yeah.
And
it was good being on.
And we look forward to our next encounter in a few months.
Same here.
As always, if you want to buy one of the releases here, either check out Steam or MangaGamer. Probably better to check out MangaGamer because you're guaranteed that it'll be there. You know,
yes.
The Steam is a bit more selective, let's say.
Yep.
And Petty, play us to the next segment. Hey, welcome to the topic of discussion. So this week marks the, how do I put this? The occasion, the rat fuckery, let's say, of Sega, and I completely called this. You can go back and listen to the audio we did when the last time we talked about Sonic. It was not that long ago, but I said that Sega would probably pull the original versions of the mainline Sonic games because of Sonic Origins. And indeed, they have done this. As of May 20th, barring a few exceptions that I won't go into here, you can no longer purchase Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and Sonic CD on any platform. Which also has the side effect of making the Steam version of the Sega Genesis collection having some, if you didn't buy it by the cutoff date, some impossible achievement. But, granted, the games were available for 10 years. And I'm not sure if they were offered on the Humble store on Amazon download codes, but,
They were on Humble, yes.
Well, using that methodology, there's probably codes of those games floating around still. So with that in mind, I wanted to talk about one of the Sonic games that's still around. When this topic came up on Sunday, there was a choice between Sonic Pinball and Sonic 3D Blast. Petty Fan elected to select Sonic 3D Blast. So we are talking about Sonic 3D Blast, or Sonic 3D Flicky's Island if you lived in PAL territory. And let's see, Sonic 3D Blast is, I'd call it one of the forgotten Sonic games. Maybe not as obscure as, say, Sonic the Fighters or Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, which, are just officially deep cuts.
Something popcorn shop.
Sonic 3D Blast, while not a mainline release technically, was still a showcase title for Sonic. It was supposed to be the swan song of Sonic on the Genesis. But and fate and circumstance intervened, it ended up being the premier Sonic game on the Saturn as well. A position it was in no way, shape, or form ready to take on.
Well, one of those versions of this game is far better than the other. Can you guess which one?
Yeah. We'll get into that, but, Sega had to get something Sonic related onto store shelves, especially since they flat out canceled Sonic Extreme. Like, this is also why they hastily cobbled together Sonic R.
Less said about that, the better.
Yeah, that's a topic for a different day. Like
when we discuss Sonic war crimes.
Look, there are a lot of war crimes.
I know.
Like, I'm pretty sure Sonic has violated at least half of the Geneva Convention. Like, and the other half has been violated by the fan base. Emphasis on the violated. But
oh god!
Didn't you know, Adam? Sonic animations are always for kids.
I'm like, oh
yeah, have fun with this one being in YouTube, kids.
Like,
this is
the Bat from Sonic X. Like, that's all I'll say at this point, because that was a cartoon for kids, and wow, that Bat was into BDSM. I'm not even joking. Look it up.
I am well aware. I watched Sonic X.
I'm like, that is a thing that happened and was even more blunt in the Japanese version. But anyway, getting back to less disturbing things, Sonic 3D Blast. Like I said, it's kind of more the it existed tier of Sonic games.
Yeah, not everything classic Sonic was good. Case in point.
Yeah. Yeah, well, opinions on Sonic 3D Blast do actually range quite wildly. Like, now, this might have to do with the version you played, because, we teased it a bit here, but Sonic 3D Blast wasn't, it was mostly the same game across platforms, but it had its differences. It's also different from a lot of isometric games.
I mean, let's be fair. Saying it's mostly the same game across platforms is like saying that Donkey Kong Country was mostly the same game on the Game Boy.
Yeah,
not Game Boy.
Well, no, that was Donkey Kong Land. Like, that was technically a separate.
Yeah, I know. I'm exaggerating for dramatic effect here.
Right.
Because the problem here, I should say, the problem with the Genesis version is not a problem that doesn't exist. The original version has problems too, but it was the performance that made it worse, is what I mean.
Right. And this also happened here, because there is a Sega Game Gear game called Sonic Blast. It has nothing really to do with Sonic 3D Blast. I think they just use that title because it has the same ACM graphics, like, just in a side-scroller position. And, on the Game Gear, like, the game looks so much worse than Sonic 3D Blast. And Sonic 3D Blast, like, once again, the opinions on how it looks differs, because, it uses that Silicon Graphics advanced computer modeling. The stuff that made Donkey Kong Country look like Donkey Kong Country, or Super Mario RPG look like that. It was less an art style and more just a byproduct of the technique, but an art style it is nonetheless. And the art style is extreme plasticity. Like, Sonic looks like he's very recyclable.
Yeah, which, I mean, and things looking like plastic figures is an acceptable art style that has been done before. It's just that it's probably not what they were going for here to that extent.
Not really, no. Like,
It's just that's the easiest art style for 3D to pull off and have it look remotely real.
right. So,
Because if you do it with no shading, it just looks weird.
Yeah.
But the plasticky shading is enough to make things have more physical presence, but it's inevitable that they still look plasticky.
this is also not Sonic's first rodeo in the perspective of 3/4. If I'm recalling, the Game Gear game Sonic's Labyrinth also used this perspective.
Yes, this is a bad idea they had more than one time.
Well, also,
I mean-
do we want to count the arcade game?
That barely counts. Like, how many people actually fucking played Sega Sonic the Hedgehog?
Fair.
Like, you know,
Also, with that thing, you can completely ignore the fact that it's isometric 3D and replace it for the fact that you control the game with a scroll wheel. Just a scroll wheel.
well, a
Trackball, but yes.
Well, yeah. That's what
I
I
think a
meant.
scroll wheel would be an improvement.
Yeah, so getting back to the controls, at least with the Genesis version here, because, okay, if you don't know how isometric controls usually work, it's basically the diagonals are usually your cardinal directions to compensate for the 45-degree slant. Like, like moving left is northwest and such and such. They don't do that in this game. Like, for whatever reason, they said, you know what? We'll use the actual cardinal directions and not the diagonals because it's less confusing in theory. I guess it's less confusing, but oh god, it's bad.
You can do it, and there are some games that have that as the default. For example, Boktai actually lets you select. It's an isometric game. It lets you select whether you want pressing up on the controller to go north, northeast, or northwest. But the default is still straight north. The problem is what they expect you to do with that. If there are, like, narrow isometric diagonal passages and pressing and you have to press diagonal to do that, that causes problems.
Yeah.
Because,
Also, keep in mind we're talking about different gameplay styles because it's this kind of control scheme. It's isometric perspective combined with Sonic.
Which even when he is wearing, which I believe is this the game with the friggin' no Dr. Eggman gave him magical slow shoes?
That was Labyrinth.
That was Labyrinth? Okay. Still, he's not that fast in this game compared to some of the other games he's in, but still, it's Sonic. He goes pretty fast. Complicated perspectives don't work well with fast.
Yeah. Like, so getting back to the versions are mostly the same but different. The Saturn version. So, the Saturn version has a few improvements. Not just, graphical effects like you'd expect from the, upping of the system. Like, not just better graphical fidelity, but it has, like, actual stage effects. Like, the Diamond Dust Zone, if I'm remembering correctly, has fog effects, for example. Biggest difference is the special stage. Petty Fan showed some of the special stages off a little while ago, and they're pretty awful here.
They hurt my hand.
Yeah.
I mean, they clearly are attempting to go for, we heard everybody really likes half pipes, so have something kind of like a half pipe. Yeah,
but not actually doing the half pipe because whatever reason, like they brought the actual Sonic 2 half pipe back with the Saturn release. And keep in mind, that was like the second time they had ever done that, so it hadn't been driven into the ground. So it was seen as, a welcome return to form, especially compared to the Genesis version, which, once again, the special stages are universally regarded as shit sandwich.
Although in this one, it looks like the hardest part of the half pipe is not. It's not a half pipe. It's a narrow path.
Yeah.
If you can fall off that, that's gonna suck.
You can fall off that.
Yeah, but it's more the spikes you got to worry about.
Yeah.
Like,
if you can't tell, I've played this game a lot. I am very accustomed with this game's janky bullshit.
Yeah. And yeah, so the other advantage that the Saturn release had was it was made compatible with the Knight's 3D joypad or whatever it is. You know, the one that had an analog stick. So that means they programmed actual... I'm presuming that they programmed actual analog control there, because otherwise that's actually not making much of a difference. Like, I can't...
Now, you can use the analog stick to go in entirely orthogonal.
Yeah. But it's like...
I have not played the Saturn version. I've played the PC version. Though this is from before the, era of standardized, joystick controls.
Right.
So I couldn't exactly plug a 360 pad in and check that.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is like, if the programming isn't there, it doesn't really matter. Because, once again, like, mentioned this on Sunday, but Super Mario 64 DS, like, even if you play that on a 3DS with the circle pad, you're only getting 8-way movement because that's how it was programmed.
Right. You can't make the controller... You can't make the game read more control precision than was programmed into it initially.
Right.
Yeah. So, I'm presuming that that is there, because otherwise, why tout the feature? Like, I guess just, to get another game that uses that controller out the gate.
What, one of 3?
Possibly. Let's see. Knights, Sonic 3D Blast, and Croc. I'd have to look to see if there were others.
Honestly, I forgot Croc Saturn was a thing.
Yeah, I did not. Like, it's amazing what information your brain retains. Like, anyway, so the plot of this one is Sonic the Hedgehog has to save the Flickies. Now, Flickies have been a part of the Sonic universe, the birds. But
yeah, they've always been in Sonic at least as one of the animals that can come out of the roboticizer pods or prisons or whatever those are.
But in this one, it's specifically the Flickies have a mystical power to find the Chaos Emeralds, and Dr. Robotnik is looking to capture the Flickies to take over the world. And, it's your job as Sonic to rescue the Flickies. It's also worth noting that the Flickies are a canon immigrant, I forget the exact trope, but they
actually debuted in a game called Flicky that was one of those a little bit more than one screen early games like Mappy and stuff.
I think Mappy is the best comparison. It's very like Mappy. Like, in fact, like, you can play the Genesis version of Flicky in the same package. Like, it's definitely a very... Yeah, this was an arcade game released in the middle of the 1980s.
When having scrolling was vaguely cutting edge.
Well, it's like it's more complex than, say, Galaga, but less complex than Rolling Thunder, to give you some other Namco arcade games of the 80s. It's in that sweet spot. And it's also just kind of unusual to see Flicky on the Genesis, because we're talking like a 1990, 1991 release of a game that really felt out of date. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah. So, is Sonic 3D Blast a good or bad game? Well, if you've been paying attention, we think it is a bad game. How bad is it? Like, honestly, on the milder end of bad Sonic games.
It's not 2K6, but oh boy, it needs some work.
Yeah. I'm like, this is going back to my whole forgotten Sonic game. Because, it doesn't really have a lot of personality.
Was this the one that got the kind of fixed port thing?
Yes and no. Like, back in 2017, like, the lead programmer of this game actually released a director's cut unofficially.
Yeah.
Which has like improved controls, and you can go as Supersonic. You get it to Chaos Emeralds. Like there were some other tweaks and fixes to it. I never played it because Sonic 3D Blast.
Yeah, I heard of its existence. I just didn't have a chance to look for it.
Well, it's also Sonic 3D Blast.
Yeah.
I played Sonic 3D Blast on the Sega Genesis Classics because it's there. I have it part of the package. I'm not going to go out of my way to play this.
I guess one thing we should mention that kind of got its start here, the homing attack.
Sort of.
The yellow shield thing here, if you double jump near an enemy, Sonic will home in on it.
Yeah, like, it's a primitive form, but it's there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, sort of in the sense that you got to have the specialized circumstance.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, the light speed dash was invented in Sonic 1, and you had to fucking in Sonic Adventure 1, and you had to charge that fucker up.
Right.
Which almost completely defeats the purpose of how it gets used in later games.
Like, and I suppose that gets to the best part of Sonic 3D Blast, and that is the soundtrack. Like, whatever else we might say about this game in terms of how it plays, how it sounds is very impressive.
Yeah, even on the Genesis.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it is a Sonic game after all.
Yeah, the Genesis could produce good music if you used the right sound font and you worked at it. Because, when Sega Genesis music went wrong, it went wrong. Like, there is nothing quite like a bad sounding Sega Genesis game. Like, you know it when you hear it, and you will not want to hear it for much longer. That awful twanginess that can get. But 3D Blast doesn't really suffer from that. It's got the distinct Genesis sound font. But it's still a really good soundtrack. I don't know how enhanced it was for the Saturn, but I do know that the certain tracks for this game, like, I'm trying to think, like, I think the boss theme showed up again, and a few others, like I think the Diamond Dust theme showed up elsewhere. And I would have to look at all the remixing, and it is worth noting that the music from this game will be in Sonic Origins, like, even though the game itself will not, because they just said mainline titles only, no spin-offs, like, which is fine, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like, if you're curious about Sonic 3D Blast, it's probably best to go track down the deluxe, the director's cut. I'm not sure if that's like a mod for the Steam version or not, but it does exist out there.
Yeah.
Once again, you can get the game on Steam and probably other platforms. Still
on Steam, it's the Genesis version though.
Yeah, like, it was all the Genesis version except for Sonic CD, which was a CD-based game. Like, I'm not even sure they sell the Genesis games individually these days. I think they're all just bundled together.
Well, they're in separate packs, but yes.
Yeah, it's a bundle. It's like one game that is the classic collection, but then
Well, I
within
mean,
that,
I think
basically
they-
all the individual games are DLC.
Yeah, it's like I think they changed that when they removed the Sonic games.
Yeah, I haven't looked since they removed the Sonic games.
So, but yeah, you can play this. I really wouldn't advise it, but you can do better. You can do worse.
I mean, if you're into masochism, have fun.
I can't even go at all. Like, it's not even that bad. It's not Sonic Chronicles bad or Sonic and the Secret Rings.
Well,
bad,
Sonic
right?
Chronicles is the exception to that. It sounds good. Yeah, it's a Sonic game rules.
I know. And, like, God only knows what happened there.
It might have actually had some appeal if the sound was any good.
There are a lot
Anyway,
more
Not
things
a
wrong
lot,
with that.
Not a lot, but some.
You get my point. Like, I could be here a while just rattling off the bad Sonic game. Yeah.
Really, the list of Sonic games that most, if not every person will agree are good is definitely longer.
So yeah, I think that'll about do it for this conversation, and indeed that'll about do it for this episode of Fragments of Silicon. The week ahead, no Friday show this week. I'm like, so on Sunday, let's see, we will be having. Well, first of all, we'll be having impressions of a game called Quixote Quest for Glory. This is a weird one, as it's a strategy card game based off of Don Quixote de la Mancha.
Well,
I mean,
then.
like, I'm like, it's a solid game. It's just I
Odd
don't know
premise.
this odd premise. Yeah, it works. It works a lot better than I was expecting. Like, my impressions are good. Like, I kind of got stuck in the third fight because there are 3 enemies and you don't recharge enough health. Like, but that's something that could be tweaked. Like, because once again, it's an early access game, but really solid. Like, the basics are there. It feels more like a waiting on content to be added.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Farm Mystery for the Nintendo Switch. Another Ocean Media conversion. Like, and along those lines, the Drama Queen Murder for the Nintendo Switch. I think Farm Mystery is one of their strategy games. Like,
Yeah,
invented.
it's
Yeah.
one of the games we've already played, just reskinned. I forget which one.
Yeah, like, and the Drama Queen Murder is another one of their hidden object games, I believe. Like, they have a few themes, like, or
Mhm.
they port over a few themes. I should correct, because technically speaking, they're not the developer of a lot of these games. Some of them they are. It's a Radalaikia game situation. Like, and yeah, they've kind of supplanted Radalaikia games due to they uploaded a whole bunch of their games on this one website I use. Like, and Radalaikia hasn't really done a lot of that lately. I'm sure we're weeping. Like, but anyway, and finally, Festival Tycoon. Gotta say, this one took me by surprise. Like, because in terms of festival, it's specifically a music festival. Yeah, you're trying to become
Not
the
like
best.
a carnival.
Yeah, or a county fair, or a Japanese cultural festival, anything like
Mhm.
that. No, we're talking, think Lollapalooza or something like that.
Which is a kind of festival.
Yes, it is. It's a music festival. Yeah. And that is the festival of which you're trying to become a tycoon game. And
You at least still have to worry about concessions and shit.
like, less concessions, but you do have to worry about a lot of shit. I'm like, I was surprised at how much you had to keep track of it for a $12 tycoon game. Like, I was expecting something more on the hyper casual side.
You can no longer hire band C because you forgot to pick out all of the red M&Ms from their
That's in the game. Not quite that detailed, but there are provisos and writers you either required to fulfill or an extra that will improve your relations with the band.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Like I said,
And I've actually read some of the reasons for some of those are reasonable, where it's like it's a band that has a lot of fancy tech stuff for their show, and like the thing is, like, if you didn't read the incredibly easy to fulfill line about no whatever color M&Ms, how do we know you tied down the pyro devices the right way and stuff, which is reasonable-ish.
not that detailed because you're the
Oh yeah,
you're the
no,
organizer.
I'm just talking about in real life. The purpose of those is usually less guy really can't stand certain color of thing, as more of a like test for you to have actually been paying attention.
But you do have to worry about venue, placement, stage, decorations, path flows. Not as in depth as say Roller Coaster Tycoon, but it's still there. And like just going through the setup mode took 2 hours, and didn't even get through it because I got stuck in one of the things, because it's like, okay, make the buildings good, and you do that by placing decorations by them. And I placed all the decorations to make the red go away. It's all white, and I'm like, it's not registering, so I don't know what to do there. Like, yeah, bit jank. Like I said, it's still got. This was developed by a small team roots here. Kind of showcased in the graphics, and it's not quite as deep as say Railroad Tycoon or Capitalism, but it's it's probably the deepest like indie tycoon business simulator game I have played to date by a country mile. I'm like, so anyway, that's what's on tap for this week. So, and there is a new episode of MSP coming in about 10-ish minutes. So until then, I shall wish you good gaming.